I appreciate it. I was in Seattle last week enjoying the cool weather while we're having a heat wave here in Idaho.
Oh
It got up
wow.
to 100 here.
Wow. Yeah, we're uh
So
we're yeah, a lot less than that. So
yeah, I thought it was perfect temperature. I went on a walk every morning and it was really nice. So
yeah, it's not bad. We don't have long or very warm summers, but when they're here they're pretty fantastic.
yeah, I was expecting it to be rainy, but I'm not sure how the rainy season works or anything there. So but
Usually we say summer starts July 5th and
okay,
you're pretty much guaranteed July, August and most of September without rain. I
okay.
mean, but we had rain yesterday, but yeah, it's usually pretty warm and sunny and dry for almost 3 months out of the year.
Almost 3 months out of here. I love the green. I met my wife in Virginia, and in fact, I would have stayed there. It was in Southwest Virginia, and it was so green. And I served my mission in Alabama, and so
Okay.
I do like the green. Idaho, it's not as much, but the mountains have its own beauty, so it's
That's
pretty
very
nice.
true. And then, do you know the Stevens somehow? Is that how we were connected?
Yeah, so I'm meeting you through Eric Stevens, and I met Eric Stevens through Justin and Lindsay Shaw, who are my in-laws. My wife is Lindsay's sister. I don't know if you know the Shaws.
I don't know the Shaws. No.
Okay. So the Shaws, let's see, they lived in Renton and they were in Eric's ward when they lived there, when he worked for T-Mobile.
Okay.
And then T-Mobile moved to Kansas City, their main office, and then he got a new job with Costco, and so he moved back to Renton, except it's just on the other side of the ward slash stake, and so they're in the I can't remember what they're called, but yeah, in fact, the Shaws, um, I can't remember if they mentioned you or not, but no, it was Nate. Nate was the other bishop. Now, are you a bishop too?
No, I'm in the stake presidency.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
it's,
I
I mean,
wondered.
I
I
am in,
wondered about that with the girls' camp.
yeah, I'm in Eric's ward. That's our home ward.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm in the stake presidency. So, yeah, that was the girls' camp last week. Gosh, last week, yeah, it was a busy week. So,
Yeah, yeah, it was a busy week for all sorts of reasons. Well, like I said, my name is Spencer Hackey. I am a professor at Brigham Young University, Idaho. I teach study and life skill classes and public speaking. And every 5 years, they want you to do some personal development. It's not research unless you want to.
okay,
And so I decided I wanted to do some, and I tied it to an outcome that BYU Idaho has. And one of the outcomes is we're graduating employable students, and
hmm,
in one in particular that stands out to me because I'm a public speaking guy is we're graduating effective communicators.
yeah,
And so I was like, all right, do we? Like, what's the measuring tool? And so I started doing research, and we don't have a really a measuring tool with that. And so then I said, all right, let me take a step back and let me research what the employers are wanting,
hmm,
and then I'll bring back so we can actually
okay,
have a job jumping off point.
great,
So that's my goal. I'm just trying to find what are employers looking for, and I'm looking for the it factor.
yeah,
You know what I mean by the it factor? It's like you want them on your team, you want to keep them on your team, you're willing to pay more to stay on your team,
right,
get them on the bus type thing.
exactly.
So I've got 10 questions for you.
Okay,
Okay. So when I go through this, I want you to think about your best employees or coworkers that you have and kind of
okay,
keep them in the back of your mind so that uh, we kind of answered the it factor categories. And I'll take you through four stages: the pre-interview stage, the interview stage, the trial period, like right after hire, and then promotion.
okay.
And I'll just ask you questions about that. Um, so Scott, when you think about the best employees, in your company or that you can think of, how are they first discovered or noticed?
We predominantly all of our hiring is done at the university level.
Okay.
And so we have kind of two categories. One is what we'll call the university hire. And we like to begin that process through the internship program. So ideally, we're grabbing students that we think have a strong aptitude and good skill base in their uh, sophomore or junior year.
Okay.
We have like an 80% return intern rate. So we bring them out, give them a good experience. Ideally, they come back for a second term and then they hire on as a full-time employee.
Hmm.
In addition to that, we have talent acquisition managers that help source talent outside the college space, the university space, as your industry hires. Our model as an organization is we found the most success from growing within. That allows our new hires to understand culture and really kind of start their career understanding expectations and growing with the company. We have varied success bringing outside talent into the organization. Sometimes it works, but more often than not, whether it's a misalignment of previous experience or misalignment of culture, or so I would say 85% of our employees have come right out of university, right to the organization, and maybe 15% are from industry.
Okay. So it's kind of a homegrown type thing.
Yeah, it is.
I like that.
And sometimes, and we got some great industry hires. That's probably not the right term anyway, but people that other than Hensel Phelps experience, right?
Sure.
Um, I think it's much harder to, through a series of short interviews and engagements, to really determine, someone who's been in the industry for 20 years and they're a project manager with, call it Turner Construction. Can I hire them as a project manager for Hensel Phelps? And will they meet our expectations?
Okay. Would you say that your recruitment comes from when they do that internship, or even when they step in their foot in the door to the internship till you hire them on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. Um, w- I don't know if this. Let's see. Is there anything that makes these employees rise to the top uh, that stands out to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a few things, and it's not as quite as apparent for the interns, but those that and we hire, I have to look at our ratio between just graduating students or intern students. But one thing that we look for is relevant industry experience, and that means either previous internships or my uncle builds barns, or I worked for a builder, and we were recruited at the BYU schools, and someone in my work gave me a job framing houses one summer.
Right.
And so one of the challenges we face is someone spends 4 years in construction management and they approach an interview and they say, I just really want to do this. This is what I want to, build my career around. And they've never really had any experience to the industry. And
Mhm.
so for me, having someone that's invested in their education in the form of an internship or working while going to school gives me greater confidence when I interview them that, okay, this person actually has seen a little bit, they've done a few things, and they're still committed to this as a career.
Yeah.
Because they would, and it's unfortunate. A lot of students go through 4 years or longer and then decide they get in the industry and say this just isn't for me, right?
Yeah.
And it usually takes us about a year for them to figure that out after we've invested a lot in training and other things. So that's one thing we look for is previous relevant experience that helps bring a lot more credibility to those statements. Like, hey, this is what I want to do. And
Hmm.
that's not always required, but it actually is a differentiator between students for sure.
Okay.
Um, you already talked about it, and we'll probably talk about specifically what it means. But when you sit down with a person and you can have a one-on-one discussion easily, they can communicate, articulate well. That sends a stronger message than someone who's obviously uncomfortable, is nervous, maybe hasn't prepared for the interview or practiced the interview. A lot of times you'll go and you'll ask a student, you ask them questions, and it's unfortunate some just really don't have, clearly have not prepared for an interview or to answer questions about themselves or their schooling experience or their work. So I'm going through a resume and say, well, tell me about this, and some are caught flat-footed in that situation. And it's not a get you process, right? But it's like,
Right.
so the students that are comfortable talking about their academic experience, their work experience, their life experience can respond comfortably, naturally to questions, maybe off script a little bit.
Okay.
We're not trying to trick or fool any students, but sometimes we'll say, hey, what's been one of the most challenging things you faced in school? Right.
Yeah.
Or, and so, and that's more of just a test of engagement, communication skills more than the answer isn't that important. It's really, can they, how do they deliver it?
Interesting. And that's right up my alley, right there. Are there any characteristics or skills that make someone stand out during the initial hiring process beyond just a formal resume?
It's interesting. I think the demographic of students um, sometimes signals a better hire is the wrong word, but a more desirable resume. And so,
Mhm.
for example, there's a big difference between a young person who is 23 and perhaps married and maybe has a child, and someone who's 23 and lived in a frat house and is still living a different life.
Mhm.
So the maturity of the individual, and often our new hires mature over time. But when I find an individual who's had some life experience, um, sometimes it's easy to tell those that have spent 2 years in missionary service have the ability to talk and communicate, and they've had some different beneficial experience that their peers haven't had. And so I like to look for stability, someone who feels like they're grounded. They're not looking for a quick, I'm going to go try this out, make a few bucks, and see how it goes. We take chances on
Yeah.
those students as well, but someone who's a little bit more grounded and has more life experience sometimes stands out for me.
Interesting. Uh, what would you say would be the most common reason some gets hired, even when there's multiple qualified candidates? So if you had two right side by side, is there anything that stands out for that one versus the other?
The qualifications at that entry level hire, there's really not a lot of delineation roads because they've only had so many years of life and experience. Where they went to school isn't a huge factor to us as far as, well, you got your degree from Cal Poly versus BYU versus, University of Washington. Grades really we don't even talk about grades. Um, I think the relevant experience stands out for sure. Sometimes the extracurricular, what I've done in my community, or you know, we call it industry engagement, but that could be, this is something that demonstrates that I know how to stick to things, see things through, you know, follow through on a process. And then often it's just how, you can talk to five people with the same rough resume, and it's really you call it the intangibles, but it's like
Mhm.
confidence is big, communication is big. I know it's probably a little scary and to approach an interview, and especially if you want the job and you need the job. And so,
Mhm.
but I think confidence goes a long way, as well as the ability to look you in the eyes and have a conversation.
Oh, interesting. Are there any warning signs or gaps that make you hesitant to hire someone, even if they are qualified on paper?
Yeah, it's the language they use, which would signal they're not really committed to a career path. They're maybe fishing, and they probably don't even realize they're doing it. But there's subtle cues that lead you to believe this is something they want to try out. And I'm
Okay.
okay with that. But if you could coach a student to avoid those type of subtle cues, an interviewer wouldn't detect the fact that they're really unsure about this, and they're not sure if this fits them.
Give me an example.
It'd have to just be like the way they like would respond to a question or the phrases they would use. Like, oh, I'd like to try that out.
Oh,
It's this like, I think I could do that. Or I think I might like that.
yeah.
Versus having some confidence and giving some assurance that, like in the ones with experience, hey, I've been down this road. I'm committed to this, and here's what I learned. But I think it's just a confidence thing, right?
Yeah. I could
And I
see that.
think I think a lot of students don't even realize that's the message they're giving off. But it's just
Mhm.
really like the way they phrase their responses. Maybe I think so. It could be not sure. Like sometimes we'll ask, well, how do you feel about you're we've had a conversation. You're from Idaho. How would you feel about working in California? Oh well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I could maybe try that. Or yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of using the softer language that kind of makes it. And yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the confidence thing
Yeah.
versus, I'd like to try that. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. Yeah.
Anything that.
I'm
Okay.
confident I could do that. I know that I don't have that specific experience, but I'm confident that I'll have the ability to learn that. And so, yeah, it's just that self-affirming, self-confidence. I'm not overconfidence.
Okay.
We don't want, bragging, or it's like that right amount with humility, but also I'm confident in myself. I'm confident in my experience, and confident that I can be successful in the future.
Interesting. So enough that they believe in themselves and what they're going to do, but not overly of where they are just too confident,
Yeah.
braggy. Okay.
Because in reality, they're just coming out of college, right? They only know
Right.
so much. So,
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, just finding that balance between recognizing where they're at, a little humility, but not letting that seem like it's lack of confidence in themselves or their experience. So,
Okay. Oh, I like that. Um, well, so when we get into the trial stage, like, all right, you've
mhm.
hired them. It's kind of like, all right, did we make the right choice? After they are hired, what qualities or behaviors help them become a strong long-term fit for the workforce?
It's a good question. Our industry, there's a lot of technical skills that are required.
Mhm.
So we provide a ton of training in the on the technical side of what our young engineers need to do. So the first really clear indication is, do they have the ability to do the job they've been hired to do technically? So there's a lot of skill based analysis of, okay, this person is intelligent, they can retain the training, they can actually go implement what they've learned and execute on things that and so and everyone develops at a different level, but you come to realize really quickly if someone has the aptitude and intelligence to actually do the job technically. And so that's one benchmark. Another real key one that seems to surface pretty quick is self starters versus those that are kind of
Mm.
have a really hard time self initiating and taking here. I guess here's what the most important thing that we see is, we don't expect all employees to know everything from day one and throughout your whole career, but what we expect is take it as far as you can go with the skills and the training you've had. Take a stab at what you think the next step is before you go talk to your supervisor. Some of our new employees, as soon as there's a signal that they're over their head a little bit, either
Mhm.
paralyzed, they don't know how to move forward, or they come with question after question after question after question. It's like, well, have so it's like the ability to progress it as far as you can within your knowledge base. And then even if it's like, here's what I think we should do next, but I'm not sure, and then
Yeah.
let your supervisor say, hey, great job so far, hey, I like where you're thinking, but here's what we need to do to accomplish this task.
It, so it's really just them, because I love how you said self-starters, but it's really taking that initiative. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, try it, ask good questions. Don't come with me with all the questions, or else
Right. Yeah.
why did I hire you?
I
Yeah.
mean, part of our investment in our young employees is we spend a lot of money on their mistakes, and that's just part
Uh-huh.
of the learning process. But some are so paralyzed to even try for fear of making a mistake. They just, that it's like, and I guess I recognize it can be very intimidating. We don't really water down the new hire experience. They're really given a lot of very important responsibilities quickly, and the ramifications of a mistake are pretty severe.
Mhm.
Whether it's safety, quality, or just incorrect work put in place. But we create an environment where they should feel comfortable with progressing as far as they can. And so, yeah, it's like confidence and initiative. Sometimes we say they've got paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
Just it's like take the next step, right?
Yeah.
You got a full support net here to help you be successful. And so, but some have
It
a
sounds
really hard time with
sounds
that.
like a great company. Uh, so when it comes to what separates an employee from just performing their job, and those that are uh, strong candidates for promotion,
Mm-hmm.
what skills or characteristics separate those employees?
It's a good question. The first 3 or 4 years, they really focused on self-development and leading themselves and being part of the team. And so after 3 or 4 years, their first promotion is what we call project engineer, and that's the first time they will supervise other people.
Mhm.
And so we watch them over those first number of years. And in addition to the technical ability to do the next job, a big question is, can they lead others?
Mhm.
Right. And so the natural leaders within the group, you will see them as they interact with our trade partners and our craft, um, and so that is probably the hardest thing for most of our new employees, is to be a leader. They are a good technician. They know how to
Mhm.
build. They know how to do layout. They know how to do all these things. They know how to do their job really well, but they struggle to help other people do their job really well also. And so some of that life experience. You take someone who's been on a mission, they've had a chance to teach and to lead and to be part of groups and be part of teams. But it's really the ability to lead a team successfully, um, and lead in a way that develops the capabilities of the team. Right? We get some leaders that they say, "Well, they're not good. They're not good. They're not good," as a reason for why the team is not performing well. And I
Mhm.
say, look, your team's going to be full of everywhere from A players to C players. Your job is to take your C players and make them B players, and your B players and make them A players.
Right.
And so you need to, as a leader, you need to both understand how they need to do their jobs, help them develop in their leadership. So one day, I mean, our big philosophy is train your replacement.
Mhm.
So treat all of these people you're managing like potential replacements, invest in them, train them. So one day, they can take your job, so you can take the next person up the chain.
Mhm.
But it becomes evident pretty quick, even though there's no distinct you're a leader of this group, as younger employees, to watch how they, like I said, engage with the craft and the trade partners and the members of the staff.
Are there any uh, qualities, behaviors, or skills they that these leaders do? Versus just performing the task, but
Yeah.
they do. What is it that they do?
Um, Communication is a big one
And
for sure. That's pretty obvious. I think if I would give some attributes to some of our leaders, patient, I think I think I see some of our best leaders are like really even killed, and they're patient, and they can take an underperforming person, work with them, be patient with them, help them grow. They can take a tense and challenging situation, maintain a level of calm, kind of unflappable, right? We try to avoid the hyper highs and hyper lows. Or we have a very dynamic industry, and even a good leader and a good communicator, if they fall apart in a difficult situation. So that kind of just that even temperament, with a lot of grace and patience for people at all different stages as they learn and grow. And our industry is very dynamic, it's very fluid, every day changes, and so you have to be very adaptable. Maybe that's a better word, adaptable, calm under pressure, adaptable, strong communicator. Because strong communication can be great, but if it's ineffective communication, if it's yelling and screaming, right, that's not really it's not really what we're looking for in our leaders.
I like that. Are there any qualities, behaviors, or skill gaps that prevent people from being promoted, even though they're technically good at their job?
Yeah, yeah, we have several that we say they're a great technician, but they're never gonna, assume leadership. It seems like just the literal inability to work with other people in a productive way. Like for example, I have an engineer. He's no longer with us, but he was a scheduling engineer, and he really wanted to be a superintendent, but he had the inability to work productively with even one person. And it was
Hmm.
just very abrasive style of communication. As someone who holds things really close to the vest and doesn't, like, a good leader needs to be able to communicate and to share. This individual, I think people that can't trust others and empower them to do their work, that's a real limitation. And so some of our leaders that are challenged, some of them, they have great intents, they want to do a good job, but they're so worried about the job being done right that they don't empower their people to actually help them do the job.
Like that. I like that word empowerment because,
If you can't empower others, you're really limited on how much you can do in our organization, right? And
yeah, I
so,
can see that.
and empowerment includes, it's one thing to say you're empowered, but you actually have to provide the knowledge base and the skills, the person being empowered, so they actually know what to do. Then you have to
Hmm.
provide support and follow up. So that empowerment is kind of a cyclical thing. It's like, hey, I trust my engineer to go do this. It's like, well, did you explain the task? Did you provide the training? Are you following up with support? And if those are answered yes, then yes, you have empowered that employee, and they're actually now, an effective job, doing a good job. And as you can multiply that over, I mean, I'm oversee 180 people. So that same empowerment culture needs to be at every level. So every employee feels like, they've been empowered to do their job, they're trusted to do their job, but they know what it is, they know how to do it, and they have the support to do it well. And some people that don't lead just internalize all that, and they dole out little tasks that are easy to accomplish and easy to manage, but don't really, and then they become overwhelmed, they become stressed, they get behind, and ultimately they end up failing.
Yeah. Um, when you think about the people who are most successful in your organization or industry, what qualities, characteristics, or skills do they consistently demonstrate?
Mm, Vision, I think, is really, really important. And that vision includes a people vision. It also includes a organizational vision, a strategic vision. So our best leaders are strategic thinkers, and they have vision, and they some courage too, right? The ability to
Mhm.
try new things, to fail fast, to dust yourself off. And I think some of our best leaders just have high ownership, right? And they credit the team for the good outcomes, and they um, hold themselves accountable when things don't go as planned.
I like that. Sounds ideal. Uh, well, I've got one last question for you
Yeah.
then. If you were to advise your 17-year-old self who wants to be hired, who
hmm
wants to have success, who wants to eventually be promoted, what would you tell yourself to develop first and why?
But at 17, there'd be so many things I would need.
I know, right?
um, and I don't know how I would tell myself, uh, let's see, I would probably challenge myself to have experiences that give me humble confidence.
Oh,
And I don't know what that means to a 17-year-old, what that would entail, but if you could focus on anything as a 17-year-old who wanted to be successful in school and life, um, experiences that help build confidence. Um, it doesn't have to be quiet confidence, but I hate confidence at the expense of brash and braggadocious, but
right.
the ability to have the courage to take on new tasks, even though you're not familiar with them, to take on new responsibilities, even though you feel underprepared, to work in teams where you don't know anybody. Those are all things that are so applicable across all phases of careers in life.
Hmm.
And I don't know what's available to 17-year-olds to help them develop that, but I think that would development of that humble confidence,
I like that. I like
because
that.
life asks a lot of people, families, work, and most of the time I have been unprepared for the next phase of my career.
Hmm.
But I've had enough confidence and ability to know what my resources were, and enough, just enough. I mean, my confidence comes from other sources too, as well, and not all our employees
Right,
have that benefit, right?
right. Well,
um,
it's interesting you say that because as I look at your answers that I wrote down, our mission at BYU Idaho is to build disciples of Jesus Christ, and a lot
yeah,
of the things that you said is just like they need to be the best disciples they can be
yeah,
because it's going to help them out with the humility and the confidence. Because I think Christ was the ultimate example for all that. So I think you're
right,
right. There's a little bit higher power, and it's nice because at BYU Idaho, I can be like, all right,
yeah,
the real where the rubber hits the road is this right here, where other universities they're like,
yeah,
we don't really understand or know, but
yeah.
it's there.
No, it's really, and a lot of my confidence and successes come from knowing that I'm where I need to be, doing the right thing,
Hmm.
and relying on, the powers of heaven to help me make up the difference. It's the same at church. It's the same at
Yeah,
work. It's the same with my family. I can only give, I want to give my full offering that's meager in most cases, and then the Lord multiplies that. And so I have the ability to assume new and difficult and challenging tasks that still seem way beyond my natural abilities, and they are. Um,
yeah.
but through the Savior, through blessings, through living my life, and keeping my covenants, those talents are multiplied, and they're more than sufficient for everything I've ever needed.
Interesting. Can I ask you a question that's not
Yeah,
part of this?
sure.
Um, I'm always curious that phrase that you said about giving your full offering. If you were to go back and teach the youth, teach these people, what would you tell them about giving their full offering, jumping all in, being
Yeah,
all in? As President Nelson said, how did he say it? Let God prevail in your
yeah,
life. What
yeah.
what would you say?
So it's interesting. I that was part of my message to the young women up at camp, and
Okay.
I used a few examples. I said our Heavenly Father, He knows our abilities, He knows our limitations, and He asks us to do things that are well beyond those things sometimes.
Mhm.
I said, when the Savior raised Lazarus from the dead, He asked His disciples to roll back the stone. He could have rolled back the stone. He had the power to do that, but they could do that, and that's what they could do. They could not raise Lazarus from the dead. He could do that, right? And so He said, "Do what you can do, and I'll do what I can do." And then I talked about the loaves and the fishes. I said, the Savior could have fed the 5,000 without any help from His disciples gathering loaves and fishes, but He said, "You bring what you have, and I'll make up the difference." And so I think it's like teaching them your offering will always feel inadequate. Whether you're asked to speak in church, it's something at work, something you're asked to do in the community, At least I do. I told the young one, I said, I always feel inadequate before I give a talk. I'm always nervous. I wonder, am I prepared? Will my message be right? But I've learned that if I do everything I can do, if I've studied, if I prayed, if I prepared myself, the Lord always more than makes up the difference. So I think it's don't discrediting your meager offering. Don't
Mhm.
don't tell yourself I'm not enough or I can't bring enough or brother, sister, so and so is so much better at this. And in your career,
Right.
oh, John is the best manager ever. I said, bring what you can and watch God work miracles in your life, But I think a lot of our young folks are afraid to bring what they have and don't trust that if they do, they'll see miracles.
Right.
So, but
Because yeah, because they feel such a small part of the big plan.
yeah,
And the reality is, God can do great things with you that's going to bless multiple people. And, you times that by everybody, all of a sudden,
yeah,
there's a sense of power with the youth that I hope they could tap into because,
yeah. Well, I think you've hit on the key there is, he doesn't magnify and bless us. I mean, partially for us, but it's for other people, right?
yeah,
We're here, we're his hands. And so,
yeah,
I look at my career, um, and when I started, 26 years ago, I could never have possibly imagined where I would be today.
hmm
And as a young person, I wouldn't say I was qualified, capable, technically, leadership wise. But through my career in bringing whatever offering I could and seeking heavily on the Lord's help, I've been able to bless or create a culture and organization which reflects discipleship and the gospel. Right? We treat each other
yeah,
kindly. We love each other. We're inclusive. You know, I have the ability to, through a professional setting, create a culture that is one of discipleship and use
hmm
language like, oh, well, we've been blessed this year. Man, it was blessed that and so
yeah,
um, I feel like once you have been magnified and bringing your offering, then you have the privilege and the obligation to go do good things with it, right?
yeah.
But yeah, if
No,
we could
that's
instill
awesome.
that in all young people that they are divine and whatever they have to bring is exactly what the Lord needs, and He'll move mountains and show miracles, and He needs that, right? He
Mhm.
needs all these young folks to be out in the world making a difference.
Yeah, he does, especially today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Spencer, I think you're doing a great work. I am envious of organizations and places where you can take professional and spiritual and personal and bring that all together.
Yeah, to use your words, I am blessed. Like it is truly a dream job for me. So I appreciate it. And I
Yeah,
just want to be cognizant of your time. So I thank you so much.
yeah.
Uh, I guess one last thing.
Mhm.
I'm trying to get 100 interviews because I think that gives me enough data that I can pull the best practice out of it.
Uh-huh.
Uh, if I sent you an email, I'll probably in a week because I'm going on a family camp out. But if there's anybody that I could talk to that could help me out with my research, I would appreciate it.
Definitely. I have a few in mind that I think would give some good perspective.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
perfect. Oh,
happy to
perfect.
do it.
Okay. Well, I'll reach out to you and I appreciate your time. Thank you
You
so
bet.
much.
Nice to meet you, Spencer. Good luck.
Good. Thank you.
All
I'll
right.
see you.